Hey guys, Tara here from Recovering Book Hoarder, and today we are going to do my December wrap-up. I read several books in December. First, can we just look at my mug? Is this not fabulous? My sister-in-law got me this. And on the back it says, "No, I will not have a nice day. I am Dorothy from the Golden Girls. I love her. She's me. I'm her." Anyway, so that is like my go-to mug right now. I actually read 16 books in December. I DNFed one book, so I did not count that in that total. So let's talk about the DNF first and just go ahead and get that out of the way. So I DNFed The Nutcracker by Alexander Dumas, and I just didn't like it. I love the ballet. The ballet is beautiful. I love the music. I love the dancing. I didn't love the book. I could have cared less. I DNF'd it, I think about 60 pages in. It's only 142 pages. For me to DNF a book that's this small, I didn't like it. And there's also like illustrations. It was really touted for its illustrations, and I didn't care for the illustrations either. So there's really nothing about this book that I liked, and I just decided it was not worth it. I had other things I would rather read. So that was my DNF. Now I'll go ahead and talk about the very last book I read, because otherwise I'm afraid I'll forget it because I haven't written it down yet, and it was an audiobook, so I don't have it here to remind me. And that was Here We Go Again by Betty White. And it was fine. Betty White narrates it, and I love Betty White. It was interesting. It was nothing groundbreaking. It was fine. It was fine. So now I'm going to go through them in the order that I actually read them for the month. And this was actually overall a very good reading month in regards to quality. I had a lot of really good quality reads. So the first book that we read is A Pretty in Punxsutawney by Laurie Boyle Crompton. This is a young adult romance. I wound up giving it 4 stars, which, to be honest, I was surprised. I liked it as it got into it more than I did in the beginning. And this is a mix of Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club, and Groundhog's Day. So interesting mix. I got it because Punxsutawney is one of my favorite places in the entire world. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and for those of you that don't know, Punxsutawney is the weather capital of the world. It is home to Punxsutawney Phil, who is the groundhog that comes out and checks to see his shadow on February 2nd. And if you haven't seen the movie Groundhog's Day, that is a movie that takes place in Punxsutawney with Bill Murray, and it's a waking up and living the same day trope over and over again in order to fix something. And I liked the characters. My only complaint, and I actually consider giving it 3 stars because of this, is like I said, Punxsutawney is one of my favorite places. And there were things about how she wrote Punxsutawney that made it very obvious that she was not actually familiar with Punxsutawney. So, for example, she talks about it being a very diverse high school. Punxsutawney is one of the least diverse places you will ever go in your entire life, unless you consider a large amount of Amish population to be extremely diverse. But it is very Caucasian. It's very Christian. It's very redneck. So diverse is not how I would classify Punxsutawney. They kept referring to it as Punks High School, and that's not how you talk about Punxsutawney. Punxsutawney's Punxsy. And the downtown, like one of the main places that they would go in here was the movie theater. There is no movie theater in Punxsutawney unless you count like this old auditorium that shows one movie. each week or every other week, something like that. Not a movie theater. The closest movie theater's in Du Bois. And the mall. Again, there's no mall in Punxsutawney. The closest mall is in Du Bois, or if you go to Indiana, PA. So that was problematic to me. If you're going to write about somewhere, you really should be very familiar with it. But it was fun in the sense that, like, she went down to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh was depicted very accurately. It says in here that the author is from Western Pennsylvania, so there's that. And I get that it's fiction, but so if I separated out how the town was depicted from the actual story, I loved the story, was upset about how the town was depicted. Anyway, I talked about this entirely too long. So if you could tell, I felt pretty passionately about it. Okay, then I somehow managed to read 2 Groundhog Day type books in a row, with the waking up and redoing the same day over and over again trope, which is funny because, number one, I kind of hate the movie Groundhog Day. I'm not a big Bill Murray fan. Did not love that movie. And I can't think of any other book I've read that had this trope in it. And then I wound up reading 2 in a row unknowingly. I didn't know that was going to be the case. So I listened to In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, and it was good. I gave it 4 stars. It was not my favorite book by them, but it was fun and enjoyable. I have to say, my thing though about these, like, living the same day over and over again trope is, when things are going well, I experience a lot of anxiety about them possibly getting pulled back and having to start over again when things are going great. So I feel anxiety reading it, which I don't love. But it was good. It had good characters, good setting. You know, I mean, it's Christina Lauren. I love Christina Lauren. Not her best, but it was good. And I say her like she's one person. Christina Lauren's 2 people. Okay, then I read, sorry, I didn't put anything in order down here. The Mystery of Ordinary Places by Shannon Martin. And this was also a 4-star read. This is Christian nonfiction, and it is about ministering where you are, ministering where you live, as opposed to making a point of going into areas that you aren't as familiar with and have a much higher probability of insulting people because you don't understand them and their lifestyle, and about how if you're going to minister somewhere and truly minister somewhere, you need to live where you minister. And so either find somewhere and say, hey, I would like to minister to these people, and go live there, or look around you and see what you can do where you actually live and reside and live your, day to day and minister there. I enjoyed this. It's written almost like a memoir, which I really, really like. And yeah, really good. Shannon Martin also has a great Instagram page that I've started following. So 4 stars, liked this one. Okay, then this is one of I read 2 sleepers this month that were, I almost DNF'd. And then they ended up being 5-star reads. How that happens, I don't understand, but this is the first one, and that is Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. Stuart Turton is the one that wrote The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I also absolutely loved. I read this one physically and also listened to it. Kind of went back and forth. The majority of it, though, I listened to on audio. And I did not love the audio, but I loved the story. So I do plan on going back and rereading this at some point. Because the thing with Stuart Turton is, once you get to the end and you find out what the deal is, you're like, okay, I have to go back and see where all of the foreshadowing and hints were to that end. So, like this a lot. I compared this to Scooby-Doo minus Scooby and Shaggy, and replace them with Sherlock Holmes and Watson. Okay, so if you like Sherlock Holmes or you like Scooby-Doo, I think you would like this book. And it also, it felt like you were dropping in the middle of a series, but like you had already read the rest of the series. It was interesting. I don't know how else to explain it. But this takes place out on the high seas. There is a murder. There is possession, mystery. It was just really good. I, like I said, initially wanted to put it down. I wasn't into it initially, but I eventually got to the point where I could not stop thinking about it and just wanted to take the day and sit down and read. So this was a sleeper. Loved it. Okay, then we have A Warm Heart in Winter by J.R. Ward. This is a spin-off from the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. It's her Caldwell Christmases. She did one of these last year, and it follows our original Brotherhood characters. It kind of gives like insight into the life of, I honestly can't give any details about this because this is like way into the series. There's a lot in this series, but I really enjoyed it. It was not my favorite. It ended up being a 4-star read, but I mean, Black Dagger, J.R. Ward, it was very good. And to finish up my 20 books in 2020, I read Misfits by Jen Colonita. I was a little upset to learn that this was actually a spin-off from another series that she did. So now I want to go back and read the other series. But I enjoyed this one. It was fun. Definitely want to continue with this. And this is going into my books I want to read with my niece as she gets older pile. Yeah, it was fun. Good character. All right, then I read Christmas Stories by Max Lucado. And these are a bunch of short stories about Christmas. It was okay. It was fine. I ended up giving it 3 stars. There were some I liked a lot better than others. I really liked the stories presented in the first half of the book more than I liked the stories presented in the second half of the book. First half of the book, I wound up starting every day crying because they brought me to tears. And if all of the stories had been like those, it probably would have been a 4 or 5-star read. But like I said, the second half wasn't quite as good as the first half. So this was a 3-star. And then I read The Women of Christmas by Liz Curtis Higgs. This was almost like a commentary on the Christmas story, focusing on the women. So Elizabeth, Mary, and Anna. And it was good. It was a 3-star read. It was fine. I may have learned a couple things. There was nothing like groundbreaking, but there were a couple really good quotes in here. So like, for example, I really liked, when I hear women rail that the Bible is misogynistic, I wonder if we're reading the same book. God loves women, redeems women, empowers women, then and now. Which I thought that was beautiful. That ended up getting posted on my Facebook page. Or like, God is in charge, God can be trusted, and God does everything out of love. So, I mean, it's good. Not as much like highlighting and wonderful quotes as I would hope, but still, there was like six really good quotes that I felt the need to share with people, and it was fine. 3 stars. All right, then I read a disappointing book. I had such high hopes for this, and that's probably why it was more disappointing. So that was The 12 Dates of Christmas by Jenny Bayliss. And I guess like the closest thing you could compare it to would be a Hallmark movie, but not as good as a Hallmark movie. So like, I literally, page 1, knew who she was going to end up with. The main character is like, she's good at everything. And I have an issue with that. Like, I'm okay with her being good at like 1 or 2 things, but she was just great at everything that she did, which I find very unrealistic. I really did not care for the guy that she wound up with. It felt like it happened abruptly, but also like took way too long. 6 dates too many, I would say. And there are some descriptions in here that were just unneeded, like way, and I'm a very descriptive person. Like, I want to picture everything, but it was just too much. So I ended up giving this 2 stars. It wasn't like, I didn't hate it, but I also definitely did not love it. Right, then I read Devotions for Christmas. This is put together by Zondervan, the publishing company, and it was good. It was just a devotional each day. It went past Christmas, which I didn't love, so I ended up, I wanted to finish it before Christmas. So I read ahead, and it was just brief, like 2 to 3 page readings each day, and yeah, I liked it. Like 3 stars. I'm gonna pass it on to someone else that I think will enjoy it to read next year. Okay, now my other sleeper of December. Another one that was gonna DNF. I was like, I don't know if I'm loving it. Should I keep reading it? Maybe I'll need to keep reading. And then just loved it so much and ended up giving it 5 stars. That is The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I had only seen such good things about this, which is why I was like disappointed that I wasn't loving it. But it ends up that I did love it so much. Just, this book has such great lessons. It's compared on here to 1984. 1984 meets The Umbrella Academy with a pinch of Douglas Adams thrown in. And I could see that. I can see that. This has just wonderful lessons. It's written in known voices. It's written by a queer author, and the main character is queer in here. The kids that so this is about a caseworker who is in charge of going and examining orphanages. They call them orphanages, that are caring for children that have magical abilities. And he is sent on a secret mission, very highly secretive mission, to check out this one orphanage that is out in the Cerulean Sea. And he's given like no background information on these kids till he gets there. And then when he gets there, he learns things that he is definitely not comfortable with about these children. And he is trying to maintain his boundaries as a caseworker, but he falls in love with these kids and other people. He loves this island. He ends up loving the island. I felt like it really gave great life lessons in here that I don't want to say because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But this is a book that should be savored, not rushed through at all. And I loved it so much. So that was my other sleeper of the month. It was great. Okay, then I read The Everything Guide to Managing Type 2 Diabetes. I actually have type 1 diabetes, but before I was diagnosed with type 1, they initially thought that it was type 2. And so I bought this because I get overzealous and I need to like read about everything. So when I found out it was type 1 instead of type 2, it was too late. I had already gone through and started highlighting things in here. And then whenever I read ahead, there were definitely things that applied to both types of diabetes. So I figured I'd go ahead and just finish it. Overall, this was a depressing and somewhat scary and anxiety producing book, looking at the complications that can arise with diabetes. So I kind of wish I hadn't read it. I mean, it's you know, how do you rate? It's a 3-star read. Like, yes, if you need to learn and understand diabetes, this is a good book. It's easy to understand. There's definitely, the first half has such helpful information in it. But make sure you're prepared, I guess is what I want to say. Because when you get a diabetic diagnosis, you like go through the grief stages. it changes your entire life. And so maybe it's not, maybe like hold off on reading the second half of it until you're in a better place. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Definitely not my favorite read. Okay, then I listened to One by One by Ruth Ware, and it was a 4-star read. It is a like thriller. I kind of figured out who done it about halfway through, which kind of always sucks, you know. But I was definitely like, I was reading it one night upstairs at my house, and I was up there by myself and in the dark listening to it, and I got creeped out enough that I needed to stop and switch to something else. Which I think that's actually why I gave it 4 stars as opposed to 3. Because it definitely was like atmospheric and had me kind of scared a little bit. So creeped out. So yeah, that was 4 stars. And then I read, again, listened to Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This was just beautiful. It was beautiful. And I highly recommend this. It's written in verse. The author reads it. If you can get a hold of it on audio, I definitely recommend that. I also want to have a physical copy as well. And it is like, yes, it's poetry. It's a coming of age story. It's a story that looks at religion. I feel like it does a really good job of showing that parents should not push their religion on their children. Their children need to make decisions about religion on their own. I'm not saying that you should not be a model for your child. And like, it's okay to question. And it's important to question. And I thought that there's a priest in here that I thought was just so wonderful, and allowed the main character to ask those questions, and also like helped her navigate things with her family. And it was beautiful. I loved it so much. So that was 5 stars. That was great. And then the last book, well, no, I'm sorry, take that back. I have 2 more. I finished up Game of Thrones, the first book in the Song of Ice and Fire. Song of Fire and Ice. Song of Fire and Ice. Here, I have the illustrated version. I had already read this. I listened to this on audio, watched the show, all that. But I have these beautiful, beautiful illustrated editions, which gave me an excuse to reread. And now I am back in the world. Oh, and I'm loving it. Like, not reading it, but thinking about it whenever I'm not reading it. And I honestly did not think I was going to get this done before the end of the year, because I still had like 500 pages to go at the beginning of this month. But I did. It was unputdownable. So I got 5 stars, just as good this time as the first time that I read it. If not better almost, because the first time I read it was not long after I had watched season 1 of the show. And the season 1 of the show and the book are so similar that I didn't feel like I ended up skimming through a lot of the first book the first time around, but this time I really read through the entire thing. So that was so fun. Love Game of Thrones. And then the last book of the year is the Apologetics Study Bible. This is the Holman Christian Standard Bible with the apologetics articles and notes and all of that. Now, the Bible is always 5 stars for me. But if I'm judging by translation or like the actual version of the Bible, I would give this one 3. And the reason for that is I really expected the Apologetics Bible to give me a lot of concrete, unarguable information, and I felt like there was a lot of circular reasoning that did not make me happy. There were some very good articles in here. There were some very good study guide notes in here, but there was too much circular reasoning. That's really what it comes down to.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And that is how I finished out the year. That was a lot. So anyway, what did you guys read this month? Did you read any of these books? What are your thoughts? Are there any of these books now that you would like to read? I would love to hear. So go ahead and interact with me down in the comments. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. And that's all. All right, guys. Bye.